I'm a host, and so I have to ask you this question, because everybody always want to know this. Are you dating anyone?
Can I bring in the gifts?
I get a gift!
You get a couple more, yeah. All right, so.
You know I love a gift, man.
Yeah, I know you love a gift.
Okay.
Can we open it on?
Yes, come on.
Okay, all right.
Y'all can wait a few minutes. Let me open my gifts.
She can't wait.
Like
Child, what you give me?
Yo, Jennifer like gifts. She got different love languages, but she like gifts.
He like affirmations and words and things like that.
So
It's a
it's
hummingbird.
a hummingbird. It's a
Thank
hummingbird.
you.
She really been into hummingbirds.
I love it.
Hummingbird.
Okay,
my goodness.
another gift.
Uh-oh.
My hummingbird. Okay, I'm still showing off my hummingbird.
Before we dive into this absolute mess, let me just say, didn't we call this? When Common started parading around with Jennifer Hudson like she was his forever woman, half y'all were already placing bets on when this would implode. And here we are, watching the common denominator live up to his name once again. But what's got me scratching my head is the whiplash we're getting from this man. Just last month, he was on every platform gushing about their life partnership and calling Jennifer one of his greatest blessings. Fast forward to today, and we're hearing whispers about him blindsiding our girl and allegedly moving on with someone else entirely. But here's where it gets interesting. Sources are saying this isn't just about him finding a new flower to pollinate. Word on the street is Jennifer rejected his marriage proposal last year, and he has been harboring some serious resentment ever since. Others are whispering that Common got tired of pretending altogether, if you catch my drift. So buckle up, people, because we're about to unpack exactly why the man who claimed Jennifer was his soulmate allegedly can't stand her anymore. And trust me, none of these theories are what you'd expect. Let's start with what we cannot deny about Common. This man has consistently dated some of the most stunning, successful women in Hollywood. We're talking about a roster that reads like a who's who of black excellence. Serena Williams, Taraji P. Henson, Tiffany Haddish, Erykah Badu, Angela Rye, Ava DuVernay. I mean, the man clearly has exquisite taste. But here's the plot twist that should have been everyone's first red flag. None of these incredible women ever stuck around. And we're not talking about regular relationship endings. We're talking about a pattern so predictable you could set your watch to it. Common himself spilled the tea on his own behavior, and it was damning. He openly admitted to being addicted to what he called the honeymoon period of relationships. Not love itself, but that initial rush, the chase, that intoxicating feeling of falling. He literally told a therapist that once those early fireworks fizzled out, he would just disappear like smoke.
Well, love addiction and then it's obviously a wonderful thing, but to be honest, the pattern I found myself in and what was called love addiction, who my therapist broke it down, was...
Imagine being that self-aware about your toxic behavior and still continuing to do it. But wait, there's more. This man also admitted he gets solely obsessed with the pursuit and early stages, then gets bored and drops everything. It's giving emotional vampire energy. He feeds off the excitement of conquest, then leaves these women confused about what they did wrong. So when Jennifer Hudson thought her charm and success would be the magical combination to finally tame Common and make him settle down, it was honestly delusional. She really thought she was different from Serena Williams, from Erykah Badu, from women who are equally talented, beautiful, and accomplished. The therapist in me wants to feel sorry for Jennifer, but the realist in me is like, you knew exactly who you were dealing with. This man's relationship resume was a public record of broken hearts and abandoned commitments. Yet she still thought she could be the one to change a pattern that had been decades in the making. Now, to be completely fair to Jennifer, Common did give her some reason to believe he was different this time. When they started dating, he made all the right public declarations about having gone through therapy and being ready to settle down. He specifically said he could now be the marrying type, and even boldly stated that if he married anyone, it would be Jennifer Hudson.
Going through those cycles, and man, thank God I went to therapy because I was able to identify, that what that pattern was and why I was feeling that way. So now, in relationships, I could be like, okay, this is how I really feel.
Those are some big promises coming from a man whose longest relationship lasted about as long as a seasonal TV show. And initially, it seemed like maybe therapy had actually worked. They were glowing together at red carpet events, posting couple goals content on social media, and Jennifer was talking about their life partnership like she'd finally found her person. But if you were paying close attention, and trust me, the internet always is, there were subtle shifts happening. Eagle-eyed followers started noticing fewer joint appearances, changes in their body language during interviews, and Jennifer posting increasingly cryptic messages that had people reading between the lines like scripture scholars. The chemistry that once radiated from their photos started feeling forced. Jennifer's usually radiant smile seemed strained when she talked about Common in interviews. And most telling of all, Common started doing more solo appearances at events where you'd normally expect to see them together. But the real tea was brewing behind the scenes. Multiple sources close to both camps started whispering about tension, about heated discussions behind closed doors, about Common being spotted around town looking a little too comfortable with other women. The writing was on the wall, but none of us were prepared for just how messy the unraveling would be. Because when a man like Common starts feeling trapped or rejected, that love addiction energy can quickly turn into something much darker and more vindictive.
When things got tough and it's time to work through stuff, I wasn't willing to work through it, and I would make excuses like, "Oh man, that's interfering with my work." Relationships ain't good for me. I don't make my best albums when
Now we're getting to the heart of why Common allegedly can't stand Jennifer anymore. And this is where the story gets really juicy. According to multiple sources close to the situation, Common didn't just casually bring up marriage. He went full traditional romantic and actually proposed to Jennifer Hudson last year. And Jennifer, she said no. But before you start dragging Jennifer, let's understand why she rejected what should have been a dream proposal from a man she claimed to love. First, Jennifer wasn't stupid. She'd watched Common cycle through some of the most incredible women in entertainment, and despite all his therapy talk, she was terrified of becoming another casualty in his pattern. Sources revealed that Jennifer specifically told Common she wasn't ready because his history with women made her question whether his promises were genuine. Can you imagine being in love with someone but constantly wondering if you're just the next temporary obsession? That's psychological torture. But the deeper reason Jennifer hesitated had nothing to do with Common and everything to do with her own trauma. Her relationship with David Otunga was so toxic that it left her genuinely believing marriage might not be in the cards for her ever again. She told friends she was scared to commit and didn't want to risk going through another devastating breakup that could destroy her emotionally.
Troubling news about Jennifer Hudson. It is over with her fiancé after nearly 10 years together. And Jennifer has actually taken legal action to keep him away.
Jennifer had been engaged to David for 9 years. 9 whole years of her life invested in a relationship that ended in protective orders and legal battles. The woman was understandably shy about making that level of commitment again, especially to someone with Common's track record. According to insiders, Common tried desperately to reassure Jennifer that he was different now, that therapy had changed him, that he was in it for the long run. But Jennifer's response was heartbreaking and practical. She'd felt that same certainty with David, and look how that ended. One source revealed she doesn't want to end up with a broken marriage and be back to square one. Jennifer had built an empire as a single mother and successful entertainer. Why risk that stability for a man who'd never proven he could sustain long-term commitment? But here's where Common's ego likely took a massive hit. This is a man accustomed to women fighting over him, begging for his attention, grateful for whatever crumbs of commitment he'd offer. Having Jennifer, someone he genuinely seemed to care about, reject his proposal probably felt like the ultimate insult.
Getting it back as a dad.
First of all, my whole male ego I got to work on too, but then it's like...
And if we know anything about wounded male egos, especially ones belonging to men with abandonment patterns, that rejection likely planted seeds of resentment that would eventually poison everything good between them. But hold on, because the marriage rejection drama is just the tip of this messy iceberg. The real tea that's got everyone talking isn't about Common's wounded ego. It's about whether he was ever genuinely interested in women at all. Enter Jaguar Wright, Common's former collaborator who's been dropping nuclear bombs about his alleged true nature for years. And when Jaguar speaks, people listen. Because this woman has receipts and zero filter when it comes to exposing industry secrets. According to Jaguar, Common doesn't love black women because he's been using them as social currency and clout-chasing accessories while his real interest lies elsewhere. She's been screaming from the rooftops that Common would rather be with men, and that every single woman who's been with him knows this truth but stays quiet.
Tell the truth, you buy. Clearly you don't love black women because all you do is abuse them socially, always clout chasing off of women. Like, come on, what makes him a relevant rapper anymore?
Now, what makes Jaguar's claims particularly interesting is this observation she made. Despite Common dating some of the most gorgeous, successful women in Hollywood, not one of them has ever publicly gushed about his performance in the bedroom. Not one mention of passion, chemistry, or satisfaction from any of his high-profile relationships. Find it sus, Jaguar said, that Common has been with all these women, and they've spoken about him, but none has ever mentioned the performance in bed. That's either because these women are extremely respectful and private, or because there's literally nothing to write home about. But the most damning piece of evidence came from someone who witnessed Common's behavior firsthand at a Hollywood event. A friend's husband, described as white and fine as get out, was attending an industry party with his wife when Common spent nearly an entire hour exclusively chatting him up, completely ignoring everyone else at the event. The man had no idea who Common was until later that night when his wife explained his celebrity status. But here's where it gets spicy. When the wife texted her husband around 3 a.m. to meet her outside, Common allegedly looked this man dead in the eye and asked, "So what are you doing later tonight?" The husband's response? "Going home with my wife." And according to the person who shared this story, the awkwardness was palpable. When pressed about whether this could have been a misunderstanding, the man was adamant. It was exactly how it sounded. Now, some people have suggested that Common's alleged confusion about his sexuality might stem from childhood trauma, specifically being taken advantage of by an older man when he was young. This kind of early SA can create conflicting feelings about intimacy and gender attraction that last well into adulthood. If these allegations are true, it would explain Common's pattern of intense pursuit followed by emotional withdrawal with women. He might genuinely believe he's attracted to these incredible women, but when it comes to genuine intimacy, something inside him shuts down. And let's talk about his suspicious close friendship with John Legend. These two spend an unusual amount of time together, collaborate constantly, and have a level of intimacy that goes beyond typical male friendships. Jaguar Wright hasn't been subtle about suggesting there's something romantic happening there.
He'd rather spend time with John Legend than any of these bitches.
The irony is devastating if you think about it. Jennifer Hudson might have been rejected not because she wasn't good enough, but because she was never really in competition with other women. She was competing with Common's internal struggle, and possibly his attraction to men. Imagine being Jennifer, successful, beautiful, talented, and slowly realizing that the man you love might be using your relationship as a cover for his true desires. That would explain why Common allegedly can't stand her anymore. It's easier to resent Jennifer than to confront his own complicated relationship with his sexuality. But before we paint Jennifer as the innocent victim in all this drama, let's talk about why some people are saying she might actually be the problem. Because Jennifer Hudson's relationship history suggests she's not exactly the angel her public image portrays. Let's start with the David Otunga situation, which is far more toxic than most people realize. Yes, we know about the protective order and the messy breakup, but the specific details paint a picture of a relationship where both parties were problematic. According to court documents, David accused Jennifer of having an affair with music producer Molly Music. But here's where it gets disturbing. When David couldn't reach Jennifer during her recording sessions in Chicago, he allegedly had their young son try to film her to prove she was cheating. Imagine using your own child as a spy in your toxic relationship. Jennifer claimed David was increasingly aggressive and threatening towards both her and their son. But David's response was equally damning. He said Jennifer was using her industry power and influence to make him look like the villain, when she was actually the real monster in the relationship.
I just tried to support her, but really, all the credit goes to her. She did all the work.
Of course.
David specifically said that Jennifer forced him to choose between his family and his career, then later complained that he was freeloading when he prioritized their relationship. He also claimed that he'd been their child's primary caregiver since birth because Jennifer was constantly on the road, directly contradicting her legal claims about being the primary parent. Now fast forward to her relationship with Common. and we're hearing whispers about similar patterns emerging. Sources close to the situation claim Jennifer started feeling like Common was beneath her financially, constantly reminding him that she makes more money and has more industry clout. If you think about it, this makes perfect sense. Jennifer Hudson is an EGOT winner. She's got an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. She's worth millions and has global recognition. Common, while successful, operates in a different stratosphere of wealth and fame. According to insiders, Jennifer allegedly started making subtle digs about their financial disparity, questioning why she should settle down with someone who couldn't match her economic status. Friends of Common claim he started feeling emasculated by these comments, especially after she rejected his marriage proposal. She knew exactly what she was getting into. One source revealed Common never hid who he was or what his financial situation looked like, but Jennifer started acting like she was doing him a favor by being with him. This power dynamic created massive tension in their relationship. Common went from feeling like Jennifer's equal partner to feeling like her charity case. And for a man with already a fragile ego and patterns of abandoning relationships, when they become challenging, that kind of psychological pressure was probably unbearable. Maybe David Otunga was right when he said Jennifer wasn't who she portrayed publicly. Maybe Common experienced that same dark side and realized he couldn't tolerate being with someone who made him feel small and inadequate despite her public declarations of love.
It was really tough, but like you said, like during that time, all I tried to do, all my focus was supporting her and the family, just being there for them.
So now we're left with this messy puzzle where multiple theories could explain why Common allegedly can't stand Jennifer Hudson anymore. And honestly, all of them could be true simultaneously. Theory 1, Common's ego couldn't handle Jennifer's rejection of his marriage proposal, especially when it came from someone he genuinely thought he could build a future with. The wounded pride festered until it turned into resentment and contempt. Theory 2, Common got tired of pretending to be attracted to women and using Jennifer as his final attempt at heterosexual respectability. When the proposal failed, he realized he was done with the charade entirely. Theory 3, Jennifer's superior financial status and alleged condescending attitude made Common feel emasculated and inadequate, triggering his pattern of abandoning relationships that become psychologically uncomfortable. Theory 4, Jennifer's own toxic patterns from her relationship with David Otunga started emerging and Common experiencing the same dark side that David warned people about. But here's what we do know for sure. Common has allegedly been talking negatively about Jennifer to industry insiders, which is completely out of character for someone who usually maintains respectful silence about his ex-partners. This suggests whatever happened between them was deeply personal and deeply hurtful. The timing is also suspicious. All of this alleged animosity started after Jennifer rejected his proposal, which suggests his feelings toward her are directly connected to that public humiliation. Meanwhile, Jennifer has been posting cryptic social media messages about knowing people's true nature and being grateful for lessons learned, which sounds like someone who discovered something disappointing about their partner. The industry gossip mill is working overtime, trying to figure out who's telling the truth, who's the victim, and who's the villain. But maybe that's the wrong question entirely. Maybe this is just what happens when two people with unresolved trauma, incompatible life goals, and completely different expectations try to force a relationship that was never meant to work in the first place. At the end of the day, what we're witnessing is a masterclass in how unhealed trauma can destroy even the most promising relationships. Common's love addiction and abandonment patterns colliding with Jennifer's trust issues and control tendencies was always going to be a recipe for disaster.